Hello my dear students, welcome to Vigyan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research deemed to be University. I, Dr. Envt Srivani, Associate Professor from the Department of Sciences and Humanities, present here to discuss about Unit-2, that is Ecosystems and Biodiversity. Now, let me tell you what is meant by ecosystem and biodiversity. Eco means nature. System means assemblies of objects which are united in an interdependent manner. That means in the nature, biotic and abiotic components are interacted with each other and also with environment, that is ecosystem. The next topic, that is biodiversity. What is bio? Means life. Diversity means variation. So biodiversity means variety of life on earth is called biodiversity. Let us see in detail about ecosystems and biodiversity in Unit 2. Let me tell you the objectives and outcomes of this topic. The main objectives of this topic helps to identify the problems and create solutions that conserve ecosystems and biodiversity. Finally, the students can gain the concept on protection of biodiversity and maintain healthy ecosystem. Right? These are the objectives and outcomes of this topic. Now, these are the following topics which I would like to cover in ecosystem. The first one, structure and functions of an ecosystem and energy flow. Second topic, food chains, food webs and ecological succession. Last topic, that is types of ecosystems. In that, forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert and aquatic ecosystems. What are the topics that I would like to cover in biodiversity? The first one, genetic diversity, species and ecosystem diversity. Second one, biogeographical zones of India. Third, biodiversity patterns and global biodiversity, and India as megadiversity nation. Now, other one, that is endangered and endemic species of India. Next goes to hotspots of biodiversity. The last one, threats to biodiversity and conservation methods of biodiversity. Let us see ecosystems in detail now. What are the pictures? You can see these pictures. This is one picture. This is other picture near our university. Okay, so these are ecosystems. What I told you about ecosystem? In the nature, biotic and abiotic components are interacted. Simply I can tell you, interaction between biotic and abiotic components is ecosystem. You can take any place you can take, maybe forest, tree, grassland, anything you take or any place. If there is an interaction between living and non-living components, it's an ecosystem. So here you can see birds, they are interacted with each other and also with environment. It is an ecosystem. Here you can see grass and some species are present which depend on each other and also with environment. It is an ecosystem. Okay, in any place you can give example for ecosystem. If you take few drops of water, for example. Few drops of water consist of microorganisms which cannot be seen. If they have an interaction with the surrounding, it is also an ecosystem. Ecosystem may be very small, that is microecosystem. If it is very large, it is called macroecosystem. You can give examples, forest and ocean ecosystem. These are examples for macroecosystem. Clear? This is also an ecosystem consisting of the plants, some organisms, water. Okay, these biotic and abiotic components interact with each other and with environment. It's an ecosystem. You can see this picture. This is the building consisting vertical garden in our campus. Okay, this is also an ecosystem, but it is made by man, so it is man-made ecosystem. So it also consists of living organisms. They have an interaction with other and surroundings. So it's an ecosystem. So you can see here, if you come to our campus lift, okay, so in lift ground floor, you can see this vertical garden. These are the plants. You can see these plants. These plants, living organisms which have an interaction with other and also with an environment. So it is also an ecosystem. It is an example for man-made ecosystem. See, these are the potted plants. They may consist of some organisms. If they have an interaction with other, it is an ecosystem. Right? These are all made by man, so they are known as man-made ecosystem, or we can say artificial ecosystems. Later I will ask you this. See, I told you very clearly the definition. What I told you, relationship between living and non-living components is ecosystem. I gave examples also. See, these are some of the small topics or definitions which you have to study. I will ask you one question. Where things live? Living things. Maybe in water, in air, on tree, pond, etc. Okay. See, living things need a place to live and grow. Maybe plant or whatever examples you give. Where plants and animals live. These are all the places where the living organisms are present. So this is the place you can see. Some birds are living. This is a water. Water body is the place to them. And these are all some examples. This is water, animal habitats, land, everything. These are all the examples where the living things stay there. What is that called? The place may be water, whatever it may be you take, water, okay, lake, in that you can give example lake, ocean, hill, anything you take. This is the place where the living things are present. That is called habitat. Suppose if I ask you habitat, it is the place where the living things stay. Fishes, these are the examples. They live in water. Okay, next birds on trees and fly through air. Birds flying in the air. Birds. See, this one you can see here. Plants grow where there is soil, water and sun. What are these? Soil, water and sun. These are the favorable conditions. How the plants will grow? Plants utilize, what generally it utilize? Plants utilize this carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Produce carbohydrates, food material. What is the process called? Photosynthesis. Okay, so here you can see sunlight is there, water is there, okay, and soil is there. So these are the favorable conditions in which the plant can grow. What is an environment? I told you in the first unit. Surroundings. What is included in our surroundings? Living components and non-living components are present in our surroundings. So you can see here very clearly the living and non-living things. See, these are the living things. Non-living thing, sunlight, okay, air. So these both living and non-living components that make up the environment. You can see there are different types of organisms live in an ecosystem. Maybe plants, birds, insects, snakes, like that different types of organisms will stay. Okay, so now you can see the group of organisms of the same kind living in the same place. I can show you some picture. You can see this picture. See, these are the group of organisms, penguins. Okay, same kind living in the same place becomes population. Right? See, all the population that live in an ecosystem at the same time form a community. All the populations you can see here in this picture, this is one community, this is one community, this is one community, population. So all the populations live in an ecosystem at the same time forms communities. Okay, this is also an example. All the population that live in an ecosystem at the same time. All the population live in an ecosystem at the same time. Okay. All the members of the community live in the same ecosystem, but they do not live in the same part of ecosystem. What is this? Take an example, ocean. All the organisms are present in the ocean, but not in the same part. Suppose this is ocean. This is ocean, you can see. Some organisms are present on the surface. Some organisms are present at the bottom. See, they do not live in the same part in the different parts depending upon the conditions, depending upon the environment it adapts. Okay, so that is the meaning of this. Now, I told you very clearly about ecosystems. Definition, you can see. I can tell you ecosystem is the basic unit of ecology. Now you should know what is ecology. First ecology was explained long back in 1869 by the scientist Ernest Haeckel. Ernest Haeckel, he explained ecology not in recently 1935, 1945, not like that, long back only in 1869 only ecology was explained. What he told about ecology? Ecology, it is derived from the Greek word, you can see here. It is derived from the Greek word oikos logos. What is meant by this oikos? Oikos means, no doubt, home. Logos means study. So what is ecology? Study of organisms in their home. Study of organisms in the native place, maybe pond, lake, river. These are all the native places. Okay, that is ecology. So this ecology was explained long back. Later, many scientists did research on ecology. Finally, in the year 1935, A.G. Tansley came. He was the famous ecologist or scientist. He studied ecology and he told ecology is the biggest unit. What is meant by ecology? There is one definition for this. It's a branch of science, deals with the study of relationship between organisms and environment. That is ecology. So, organisms on earth, that means in water, plant, wherever, on trees, air, land, hill, mountain, grassland, wherever. Okay, the organisms and interaction with environment is ecology. So, it is the biggest unit. But A.G. Tansley told he want to specify in only one aspect. Suppose we are talking about pond. He want to specify only on pond. he want to study only about the organisms present in the pond and interaction with other and with environment. So he want to specify on single unit study, and he only divided ecology into various subunits called ecosystems. Both are same. Okay, so that's why ecosystems means these are the basic units of ecology I told you. This is about the concept of ecosystem. Can you write? If they ask a concept of ecosystem, you have to write the definition, you have to discuss about ecology and how ecosystem came. Right? Now coming to the classification of ecosystem. I already explained this. I gave some examples for you about natural ecosystem and man-made ecosystems. In our campus I gave some examples. You see. It is classified into three types. The first one is natural ecosystem. Second one, man-made ecosystem. And the third one is incomplete ecosystem. So let us discuss what is natural ecosystem, man-made ecosystem and incomplete ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, it is formed by itself. That means naturally it is formed without the interference of man. Can you give examples for natural ecosystem? You can give these examples: forest, grassland, desert, river, ocean. All these are examples for natural ecosystem because they are formed without the interference of man. They are of two types. They are terrestrial. See, terrestrial means land is the habitat. Aquatic. See, aquatic means water is the habitat. What examples can you give here for terrestrial? If they ask you terrestrial ecosystems, you have to give desert, forest, grassland. Ecosystems on land. Aquatic ecosystem means river, ocean, lakes, ponds. All these are examples of aquatic ecosystems. Right? So that is about natural ecosystem. Man-made ecosystem. I gave some examples. Artificial ecosystem, which is formed with interference of man. Can you give some examples for this man-made ecosystem? Shall I give examples like this? Reservoir. Reservoir which is made by man. It's a man-made ecosystem. Can you give other example? Aquarium. Aquarium is also made by man. It's a man-made ecosystem. Next, parks. Man-made ecosystem. Garden. It's a man-made ecosystem. All these are examples of man-made ecosystem. In this also, you can give examples of terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. Right? The last one is incomplete. If some of the components are missed or not present, you can write absent, then it becomes incomplete ecosystem. Can you give me some examples of incomplete ecosystem? Some of the components should be completely absent. Now I will give you one example. Caves. How can you say it is an incomplete ecosystem? In caves, there is no light penetration. Sunlight is completely absent. Plants are not present. So it becomes incomplete ecosystem. One example. Another example. ABYSSAL or abyssal zone. You can say sea depth. Suppose ocean is there. You go very deep into the ocean. See, 2000 meters, 4000 meters or 6000. What will happen? Complete darkness. No light. Light penetrates up to certain extent. Later the light disappears. No light penetration. So sunlight is absent. Plants are absent. Whatever the dead material, the plants or the leaves died on the surface, they settle to the bottom by sedimentation. But plants are absent after 2000, 3000 meters in the sea or ocean. That is called abyssal zone. It becomes incomplete ecosystem. Is it clear? What I covered? Ecosystem. In definition of ecosystem, I told you classification. Natural ecosystem, man-made ecosystem, incomplete ecosystem. Is it clear for you? Now, let me discuss block diagram of ecosystem. See this picture, students. What do you understand by this picture? Let me tell you. What is this here? Sunlight. Producers means plants. Here the input is sunlight, which is used by plants and prepare food material. Plants utilize the sunlight and prepares food material by a process which is known as photosynthesis. Is it clear for you, students? Okay. So here these plants, after preparing the food material, some amount of energy is dissipated and released in the form of heat. This is during respiration. Understood? Some amount of energy is lost during respiration in the form of heat. Now, the energy from the plants goes to consumers. Consumers means which depends on others. That we call it as heterotrophs. Right? So now here these consumers are classified into three types. Primary consumer, secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. Three types. Okay? So now the energy from the producers go to primary consumers. What are primary consumers? Herbivores, which eat leaves, twigs, fruits. Can you give example? Cattle, sheep, goat, small worms which feed on leaves. It goes to herbivores. From herbivores the energy goes to secondary consumers which are known as carnivore. From secondary consumer the energy goes to tertiary consumer that we call it as top carnivore. Clear? Now let me give some example here. This is very important. 10% of energy is present in the plant. That means more energy is present in the plant. From the plant the energy goes to primary consumer. I told you. So here whenever the energy goes to primary consumer, out of 10%, only 1% will go. Only 1% energy go to the primary consumer. That means what is happening? At each step 80 to 90% of energy is lost, dissipated into the environment. That's why out of 10% only 1% of energy goes to the herbivore. From herbivore the energy goes to secondary consumer. That means carnivore. The energy goes to secondary consumer, that is carnivore. See, only 1% of energy is present in the herbivore. If the energy goes to secondary consumer, how much will go? 0.1. If the energy from the secondary consumer, if it goes to tertiary consumer, how much will go? 0.01%. That means what is happening here? 80 to 90% of energy is dissipated or lost at each step. So always the energy is more in the plant. If the energy reaches to the top carnivore, it becomes zero. This you can explain in energy flow of an ecosystem. Later I will ask you. You can also even explain biotic and abiotic components. I told you here producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Now let us see what happened. After the death of plants will die, consumers will die. That means primary, secondary, tertiary consumers. What will happen? Here, what is there here? What are these? Decomposers. Can you give examples for decomposers? What examples can you give? Microbes. Here, the microbes playing an important role in degradation of complex organic substances into simple nutrients. You can see here the dead organic material, complex organic material. These microbes feed on it, degrades it and convert it into simple nutrients. These are the simple nutrients you can see here. Here also some amount of energy is lost in the form of heat. Finally, this inorganic nutrient pool which is present in the soil, that is again supplied to producer plant. Is it clear for you now, all of you? How the energy is transferring from one organism to other organism, and what are producers, consumers and decomposers? What is their role in it? Right? All of you see this flow chart. You can explain biotic and abiotic components. No need to study. You prepare this flow chart and explain. Okay? Let me tell you in detail about biotic and abiotic components of ecosystem. Ecosystem consists of biotic and abiotic components. What is the definition of ecosystem? Interaction between biotic components and abiotic components. Okay, so now I am going to explain that only. Listen. Abiotic factors means non-living factor. It's nothing but non-living components. You can see here these are classified into climatic, edaphic. You can also classify like this, physical or chemical, edaphic. Like that also you can classify. Okay. Now you can see climatic factors, example rain, temperature, wind, light. Edaphic factor, example soil, pH, minerals. These are the examples for edaphic factor. Edaphology means study of soil science. Okay. Now you can see these are the biotic factors. Biotic factors means living factors, or we can say living components. These biotic factors are classified into three types. First one producer, second one consumer, third one decomposer. Clear? Now let me discuss about producer, consumer, decomposer. Already I gave hint in block diagram of ecosystem. What are producers? What I told you about producers? Producers means plants. How you can explain? These plants are autotrophs. Autotroph. What is meant by autotroph? Troph means feed. Auto means self, which prepare their own food. That is autotroph. See, all the plants are autotrophs because they prepare their own food material. Clear? Now, you can give examples. All plants. You can give examples here. Now, consumers, which depends on other. Consumers are called heterotrophs. You can write. Consumers are called heterotroph. Troph means feed, hetero means other. So consumers means which depends on others. Heterotrophs means troph, I told you here I gave very clearly, which feed on other. Right? Okay. So these heterotrophs are consumers now here classified into following types. Just now I told you. What are there? Primary, secondary, tertiary. Here they give another example, that is quaternary. Quaternary means which feed on top carnivores, right? Okay. Now you can see what are primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. What I told you in the last class, primary consumers means I told you herbivore. Give examples, explain. Now secondary consumer, I told you carnivore, which feed on some primary consumers. Give examples. Tertiary consumer, top carnivore. This top carnivore or tertiary consumer feed on both primary and secondary consumers. Clear for you, all of you? Now the last one, that is decomposer. Now let me tell you, decomposers are playing a vital role. In the last slide I told you. Decomposers, examples you give bacteria, fungi. These decomposers feed on the rotten materials. They feed on the rotten materials, so they are also known as rotifers. They are also known as decomposers. I am talking saprotroph. All of you can see. Troph means feed. Sapro means rotten. Saprotrophs, rotten. They feed on the rotten materials. That's why they are also known as rotifers. Clear? Now there is one small point here, that is dead organic material, maybe plant material, bird material, insect material, whatever it may be, is called detritus. All of you write in your notes, detritus. Dead organic material, detritus. So this bacteria, that means the decomposers feed on the dead organic material. Any dead organic material it feed, that is detritus, I told you. So they are also called detrivores, because they feed on the dead organic material. So decomposers are saprotrophs, rotifers, detrivores. They play a vital role in ecosystem, in environment, even though they are harmful. Without that, degradation cannot take place. Clear for you? About biotic and abiotic components. See, abiotic factors, you just give examples. This flowchart is very important. Later, I will describe types of ecosystems. In types of ecosystems, maybe grassland ecosystem, desert, pond, river ecosystem. Only characteristic features I will explain. Remaining explanation is same. Biotic and abiotic components heading you have to explain. Only examples are different. Suppose you are explaining pond ecosystem, producers, plants in the water, you have to give examples. Organisms in water, give examples. That is only the difference. That's why learn this flowchart. In the next slide, producer, consumer, decomposer, that explanation is only there. Let me see. In detail I explain, I will tell you briefly. Okay? Now you can see. Biotic and abiotic components, structure of an ecosystem. For this, the answer is flowchart only. Abiotic components I explained. Physical, climatic or chemical. I told you very clearly. You can explain, you can also divide like this, physical, chemical, edaphic or climatic. I told you that you can give examples. You can give examples here. Light, water, heat. What is there in the flowchart? Here only organic factors. Organic factors, you give examples of lipids, proteins and humus. In chemical factors, you have to give these examples. Physical factors or climatic factors, light, water, wind, etc. Inorganic, carbon, hydrogen, nitrates, all these examples for inorganic components. Edaphic, soil is the example. I also explained this. Biotic components, autotrophs I told you, example plants. Heterotrophs, very clearly I explained in the flow chart. Primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary and quaternary consumer. Let me show some pictures to you. Autotrophic, example plants. See, plants. Autotrophs, they prepare their own food material, that is given here. This is the photosynthesis. You can see this photosynthesis. Light, plants prepare food material, carbohydrates, okay, and oxygen. Carbon dioxide combines with water in the presence of light and chlorophyll forms carbohydrates. Right? You can see here producers means plants. They prepare their own food material by themselves and they utilize some amount of energy. Plants. Now you can see consumers means heterotrophs are classified into two types. First one is macro consumer, second one micro consumers means saprotrophs. Right? Now you can see macro consumers, heterotrophs, give examples for this. Micro consumers, you can give example bacteria. These are consumers or heterotrophs. I already explained in block diagram of ecosystem. These are classified into primary consumer, secondary consumer and tertiary consumers. Their definitions I already told you and examples I give. Give only 2 or 3 examples. Right? See, this is the consumer which depends on others. Okay? It get energy from some other organism, it uses that energy and here also some amount of energy is dissipated. See, whatever energy it gets, it uses. You can see this. Most of the energy the secondary consumer get from the primary consumer is used by the secondary consumer. This is an example for secondary consumer. It get energy from the primary consumer. See, what is predator? Predator means which eats live organism. Lion, it kill deer and eat. It's a predator. You can also give an example of lizard. It's also a predator because it eats insects, live organisms. It may be a predator or scavenger. What do you mean by scavenger? Dead organisms. Already the organisms are died. Such dead organisms are eaten. Then it becomes scavenger. You can see. Scavenger example. It is eating dead organism. Consumers, that is other consumers, already died. This is an example. You can see this. Consumers that eat producers and other consumers. That means which eats both plants and animals. What examples shall we give? Other than this, can you give some examples? Man, cockroach, crow. These are examples for omnivore. Right? See, these are examples for omnivore. You can give example of crow, cockroach, man. Omnivore means which eats both plants and animals. Decomposers already I explained. Bacteria. What is their role even I explained. Saprotrophs I told you. What is sapro? Rotten. Troph, feed. Which feed on rotten materials. See, I told you very clearly. Dead organic material is called detritus. Detrivores means which feed on detritus. See, prey, predator. Some consumers that hunt and kill other consumers are called predators, already I explained. The animals that are hunted and killed, prey. See, lion, it's a predator. It hunts deer and kill its prey. P-R-E-Y, okay? See, example. These are some of the references taken from the website. Some of the pictures and videos were taken from the website for academic purpose. The pictures taken from the website were acknowledged. Thank you. In this lesson, I covered structure of ecosystem, biotic and abiotic components in detail, including block diagram of ecosystem. Thank you.